Hello, and I hope you've all had a great Easter break. This week's tourism teacher talk is a little bit different from previous weeks because I am coming to you from my travels. So here I am in Guilin, China. Well, actually, this is Yangshuo, which I'm terrible at pronouncing words in Chinese. People tend to talk about Guilin and the wider area, but actually I'm in Yangshuo. I think that's how you pronounce it. So a lot of people have messaged me because if you're not familiar, I do live in China. I live in Hangzhou, China, which is on the bullet train about an hour out of Shanghai. So a lot of people have been messaging me and asking, what's life like in China? What are the travel opportunities like? What's the state of COVID over there? So I thought I would take the opportunity this week while I am traveling and I'm in such a beautiful place. Look at this view. This is just out of this world. Honestly, it's just so remarkable here. So I thought I would take this opportunity while I am here in Guilin to talk to you guys and to tell you a little bit about tourism in China at the moment and what it's like. So if you have any questions, please do fire away because I can do my best to answer them all. I came out here to Guilin, China. Well, obviously I've been in China for a while. I flew from Hangzhou with my family on Saturday. So it's now, what day is it today? Thursday. So I've been out here for a few days now. And we have been traveling around Guilin, and now we are obviously in Yangshuo. Now, Guilin is surprisingly underdeveloped for tourism. It's very, very well known within China, but actually a lot of people who are outside of China haven't necessarily heard of it. And I posted some pictures on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram and you're interested in my travels at all, I post lots and lots of stories and updates on there all the time about life in China and traveling to different places in China. So anyway, I posted a picture about a week ago saying, look where we're going soon. And can you guess where we are? And most people who responded guessed that we were going to Halong Bay in Vietnam. To which I responded, I wish I could leave the country right now because obviously we have travel restrictions all over the world, unfortunately. But no, I'm not in Halong Bay, and I think you can probably see that from the background that obviously this is grass and not water. But the area around here is absolutely incredible. And I thought actually I would share a couple of photos with you that I've taken over the last few days, and I'll do that in a moment. So Guilin is a city, and most people use that as an entry and an exit point to come to the countryside to see these beautiful mountains. And for miles and miles around, you just have mountain after mountain after mountain. And it's like nowhere else I've ever traveled. The most similar place perhaps is Halong Bay. And here it's a great form of rural tourism. So if you tuned in a couple of weeks ago, we had a tourism teacher talk all about rural tourism and the growth in rural tourism around the world. And, that has grown here in China too. So I'll show you a couple of pictures before I tell you a bit more about China. Actually, I think I can share my screen with you. I'll just figure that out here. So share. Bear with me. I've never actually shared my screen before, so hopefully you can see that there. So I'll just bring up a couple of pictures. So this is one that I took a couple of days ago. So this is one of the big sites in the area. It's not actually in Guilin. It's about an hour and a half outside of Guilin, and these are the Longjing rice terraces. So it was so wonderful because my daughter's actually been learning, you can see her there, my eldest daughter Isla, she's 4, and she's been learning about growing food and seeds at school. So it was wonderful to be able to teach her where the rice comes from, and the views are just spectacular. It's actually rainy season at the moment, so you can see there's quite a lot of cloud and haze around, but it's just incredible. And you can go hiking there, you can stay in the villages, they've got some authentic villages. And I actually read that the woman who holds the Guinness World Record for having the longest hair in the world lives here. So apparently you can pay her a couple of pounds and she will let her hair down and show you. So that's something a bit unique. So the Longjing rice terraces are a big thing to do here. Then you just have this remarkable, absolutely remarkable scenery. So you can see here, this is just we were just driving along and we stopped to take some photos. Absolutely incredible, a beautiful, picturesque bridge with water and the mountains. And everywhere you drive around here, this is how it looks. It's just absolutely stunning. And I wouldn't usually share lots of pictures on LinkedIn, but I just think that sharing the pictures shows you just how wonderful this destination is. And this was just a couple of hours ago. I took this photo, or my husband took this photo for me. And this is a viewpoint here in Yangshuo, not far from here. It's not actually in Yangshuo. It's near a town called Xingping. Probably pronounced wrong, but you can see what I'm explaining is it's just endless mountains, absolutely incredible, really, really amazing. And what else have I got here? Yeah, another picture, more mountains, and lots of people go on hikes. You can hire bicycles and go cycling. There are just wild animals roaming around. There are buffalo being and cows being farmed. It's absolutely wonderful. And then I thought I'd show you this one too. It's maybe not that obvious what this picture is, but here there are lots of caves, but they love to Disneyfy things here in China, and the caves are all lit up with hundreds of different colors. It's quite amazing. So that's a picture of one of the caves, and it's actually water there, and you can kind of see the reflection. But there are lots of caves here as well. So I'll just stop sharing that there. There we are. So I felt the need to share some pictures just to show to you what this place looks like. And a lot of people actually aren't familiar with Guilin, and they're not familiar with this part of China. And if you are traveling in China, or if you've ever considered coming to China, I think that seeing pictures of a place like this should inspire you. And I think that when you come somewhere this place is almost magical. And when you come somewhere like this, I think it really, really does inspire you to travel. And for me, this is what travel is all about. It's about coming and seeing these wonderful, wonderful places. It's about seeing the ethnic minority villages, seeing how they work, seeing how people live. And I'm in my hotel room here. You can probably just about tell I'm sitting on the bed, and this is the window. The window is the entire wall in the hotel room, and we wake up and we look out at this view, and I think, I feel so privileged to be able to live this life and see these things that I can see, and it really is wonderful. And there are many wonderful things to see in China, but also, around the world. It's fantastic. And if a lot of people have messaged me who teach travel and tourism and said, I'm really struggling to inspire my students right now. They're feeling demotivated. They're seeing the state of the industry right now. But actually, in a way, I feel like I almost can see into the future if that's at all possible. Because in China, there hasn't really been any COVID for over a year. A lot of you are probably familiar with my story. Last year in March, last year January, we went on holiday for Chinese New Year. That's when news came out that there was a new virus, and we didn't come home. We didn't go home to Hangzhou because the schools were closed. My husband works at a school. So we didn't come back to China, and many other people who live in China chose to stay abroad during that time because we weren't sure of the safety, we weren't sure what was going to happen with this virus, etc. So we stayed abroad for 2 months, and then it came the time when my husband went back to China to work, and we had to make a difficult decision. Do we go to Europe, UK, where it appeared to be safe at that time, or do we go back to China where we weren't really sure what was going on? So me and the children I decided to take the children back to the UK. A few days later, China closed their borders, as did many countries around the world. And it was shortly after that time that actually the virus was contained within China, because in January they had a very, very strict lockdown, very strict. People were told to stay within their apartments. People don't have, not many people have much outside space. So it's not like in the UK where during lockdown, because obviously I was there for the first lockdown in the UK and we were outside having barbecues and things, the weather was beautiful. That wasn't that wasn't an option for the vast majority of people living in China, because people mostly live in high-rise apartment blocks and buildings. So it was very tough, and it was very out of the blue. You know, by the time we had lockdown in the UK, many other countries around the world had it, so you can almost look and learn from other countries. It was very new. But people do stick to the rules in China, so people didn't break the rules. You were allowed out about 3 times a week, I think, to get food, etc. But other than that, you were supposed to be staying within your apartment. And that went on for a few weeks, and then slowly they opened everything back up, and schools went back in April, and children have been at school ever since. There have been localized localized outbreaks that do come from imported cases and have spread slightly. It's all over the news here at the moment that there is an outbreak in a border city in Yunnan province, but there have been 14 cases, and this is a country of 1.5 billion people. So it is extraordinarily small and not at all comparable to most countries in the world. So China did contain it, and that has allowed China to return and resume some kind of normality. Pretty much life has been normal here for people in most areas. Obviously, there have been localized lockdowns that have occurred, but they are generally quite small areas, and hasn't happened so frequently. And life has been pretty normal. So by sort of June time, people were going on holidays again here. And domestic tourism has absolutely boomed in China, as I expect it probably will in the UK this summer, because the UK have got an excellent rollout of the vaccine, making great progress, opening things up again. And hopefully by the summer, you will be able to move freely around the UK and things will be open, etc. So much like I expect the UK will get there this summer. Obviously, I can't speak for every country in the world, because different places are at different stages with their outbreaks and the pandemic and how they're managing it. But in China, people started traveling. And by Golden Week, so in China, there are 2 major holidays: Chinese New Year, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and Golden Week. So Golden Week is at the beginning of October. It's a big national holiday. Almost everybody is off work. A lot of the shops shut down, all our local shops, the fruit shops, the convenience stores, everything closed. Normally, we are advised by other expats to go on holiday outside of China during this period, because it is the time when everybody goes on holiday in China, because it's like our public holidays in the UK, but much bigger. And it lasts a whole week. But obviously, we couldn't go abroad this year because the borders are closed. And our visas would be cancelled if we left. So that it's absolutely not an option. And quarantine is very, very strict. It depends where in China you live, but you have a 2-week centralized quarantine, which is very, very strict. You can't go outside at all. It's in a government managed building. And then from there, it depends where you live, but there is usually a stint of home quarantine. And then there might be another week of managed isolation or managed health monitoring or something like that, I think they call it. So all in all, the longest period has been a month of quarantine effectively. So it absolutely was not an option, and it continues not to be an option to leave China for the vast majority of expats. So we are traveling within China right now. And by Golden Week, domestic tourism was higher than it was last year in 2019. So, because obviously this was October 2020. And that's pretty remarkable when most of the rest of the world have come to a complete halt. There were more domestic flights in China than there had been the year before. That's amazing. And one of the most notable trends here, and I am curious to see if this trend follows suit throughout the rest of the world, I think it's quite likely, is that luxury tourism is doing really well. And luxury tourism is the area that has seen the biggest growth. The backpacker market and the budget travel has seen the least growth. And places like here in Yangshuo are very popular with backpackers, European, Australian, American, people from New Zealand, backpackers. So obviously those people aren't here right now. And we ate dinner at an international youth hostel yesterday, and I did think to myself, you know, I wonder how they're coping with this business. I wonder if they're trying to attract local people instead. But what I do, and I don't have the answer to that. I don't speak any Chinese, so I don't have too many lengthy conversations with the local Chinese people because very few of them speak English. And there's only so much you can really do via a Translate app. So yeah, it's interesting to see that luxury tourism has really boomed here. And I think that is in part because people perhaps have some extra money where they've been in lockdown and they hadn't traveled for a little while, so then they want to splurge, they want to go all out and do that great trip. But also because people perceive luxury travel, and when they spend a little bit more, to be safer. You're not in big groups so much. Your accommodation tends to be have high cleanliness standards, and that's not to say that cheaper accommodation doesn't. But I think it's a matter of perception, and people think I'm paying more, it's going to be safer, it's going to be cleaner, there's going to be less crowds, I'm going to have more space, etc. And people are very, very worried here in China about the virus. They're very scared of the virus, and so people are very, very careful. And a lot of the places you go, you don't have to wear masks, but people choose to, because they want to take that precautionary measure. Even though, you know, there were weeks went by with not a single case in the entire country of 1.5 billion people. But when you have a handful of cases, everybody panics and starts wearing their masks. So it's a security thing. So I think that luxury travel has given people that sense of security in a way. So people who might not perhaps have spent on luxury travel before are choosing to now during this COVID era. I think there's also an argument to say that this trend might not follow through in the rest of the world. It might just be a China thing. There are a lot of very wealthy people in China, very wealthy indeed. There is poverty here too. There's great poverty, and there's actually a very distinct disparity. There's a vast disparity actually between the rich and the poor here. And there are some people who are very rich, and often those people during their holidays would have gone abroad. They would have gone to London, New York, Sydney, Bali, Thailand. You know, Chinese outbound tourism is big business, absolutely huge business. So those people are now traveling within China, so they're spending their money in the country instead of taking it out. So there is also that argument to say that you know, there are people with money who would usually spend it abroad who are choosing to stay in China, perhaps. But one thing, I mean, I've been doing some careers talks lately for colleges, and one thing that I say in my careers talks, I talk about the jobs that are likely to be big in the future, post-COVID and in the years to come. And one of the areas that I always mention is Chinese outbound tourism. And this is something that I don't hear mentioned very often. And before I came to China, I knew China was a big country and that there were a lot of people who like to travel, but I didn't know that much about it. And I think that's very much so the case for a lot of people. So I like to teach people this because China is a huge market to tap into. And if you are a tourism business and you are looking to market your products and your services and you're wondering, who do I market it to? Where do I market it? Consider China. Now, not only does China have 1.5 billion people, not all of them can afford to travel abroad, but every single year, huge amounts of people, I don't have the exact statistics off the top of my head, but huge amounts, thousands of people are lifted out of poverty, and the country is growing and becoming more and more wealthy. It's becoming more and more developed. The society and the way that people are has changed drastically over the last few years, and that's something that's really really fascinating, actually, because the country has changed so quickly. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes in politics, a lot of changes in the economy, and the country has just grown exponentially in recent years. And you can see very clear differences by, somebody who's perhaps my age, in their 30s, to their parents who might be in their 50s or 60s. And there are just between one generation, there's a huge difference between the way that people act, the way that they speak. For example, often, just today, actually, we were walking down from the mountain that I showed you. And a woman, she was probably about 60, reached out to touch my daughter, and her daughter, a younger woman who I assumed was her daughter, grabbed her hand and took it away, because her daughter, I'm guessing, because they were speaking Chinese, but I'm guessing she said to her, no, you don't touch them, because different generations are very different here. And a lot of the younger generations are more similar to, they are more exposed to Western culture and Western norms, I suppose. And it's very interesting to see how quickly things have changed. And you're probably also familiar with China being a huge group tour culture. Now, that's another thing that's changed. Generationally, older people still like the group tours, but the younger people are a lot more independent. They want to break free from the tours. They want to do more sort of backpacking trips or more solo travel trips, or, more independent trips, really. So that's another thing that's really interesting. So if you are an organization or a company that works in the tourism industry, tapping into the Chinese outbound market has a lot of potential, because not only is it huge right now, but it's getting bigger fast. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to plug my laptop in super quickly. You can admire that view for a second. Yeah, my battery's just getting a bit low. So it's a massive market with a humongous potential. And another thing is that Chinese tourists spend more, I believe, than any, sorry, I've got you on the bed, so you're moving around a bit. Chinese tourists spend more than any other tourist. So not only are there more Chinese people than most nationalities, more of those want to travel each year because they are, coming out of poverty or becoming richer. They are developing socially in a way that they want to travel outside of their home country, they want to see more of the world, and they spend more money. So Chinese outbound tourism is a valuable market, massively valuable market. So huge potential there. So yeah, going back to domestic tourism in China, it's massive right now, absolutely massive. And what more can I say, really? The borders are closed, as they remain to be closed in many parts of the world. Hopefully they will open again soon, we'll see. At the moment, it's looking like it'll probably be spring 2022 with the speed of the vaccination program. But we will see what happens there. One of the things that I found fascinating was when I went to Bali. So I went to Bali, not last Christmas, obviously the borders were closed, the Christmas before. I went to Bali, sorry, stuttering a bit there, start again. I went to Bali when I was about 24, so about 10 years ago. And obviously I have my memories of what it was like in Bali. And then I went to Bali just over a year ago, and there was a huge difference. And the taxi driver said to me, oh, there's another new flight just been added from China. There are all these flights being added all the time, direct flights from China. I wasn't looking for it, but when I went to Bali 10 years ago, I don't really remember seeing many Chinese people. Same with Thailand. I went to Thailand. We were in Thailand right before all the borders closed around the world. And there were lots of Chinese people. And what I came to learn was actually for Thailand, for Bali, and for a few other popular tourist destinations that are nearby, China is their biggest market. So these countries many of them are desperate for China to allow freedom of travel again, because that's their biggest market. Plus, they know it's safe in China. There is no virus. No, there's very little virus here. So they want people from China. And Bali or Indonesia and other countries are desperate for the Chinese tourists to come back, because they're the ones who are most populous in their tourism industry. They're the ones who are bringing in the money. So it will be interesting to see how it all unfolds, and whether there will be any bubbles or whether it will just open. We will see, and I think that will be very interesting. But what I do know is that a lot of countries are eagerly awaiting the reopening of travel, particularly for China over other countries in the world, because of that value there. For me, I plan to travel in China a bit more. I've lived here for almost 2 years now, and I still haven't seen the Great Wall of China, which I think is absolute sacrilege. So we will probably be doing that in the summer, providing we can't leave China, which is looking likely. I will probably be streaming you from the Great Wall of China. We've got lots of time off over the summer, so we will be seeing lots of the wall and home to camp. So if anyone's been camping on the Great Wall of China, please do send me some tips. And maybe doing a bit of the Silk Road. We've got a car here, so we're going to drive around, really explore some of China, some slow travel. So if you're not familiar with slow travel, it's pretty self-explanatory, traveling slowly, but that is also set to grow post-COVID. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Again, if you've just tuned in, I am in Guilin, Yangshuo. Absolutely beautiful. It is 5 o'clock at night, so I'm almost ready for my next tasty Chinese dish. I got some lovely food at this hotel. So going to try some more noodles, or I've already had rice for breakfast and lunch, so I might give that a miss for tea. But yeah, if you've got any questions about what it's like here in China, etc., please do feel free to send me a message. And if you are interested in my travels, I post lots and lots of updates, too many probably, on Instagram. So you can just search the tourism teacher on Instagram and you'll find me. So next week, let me just check who I've got in for you next week. Give me a second, I'll tell you we have got somebody booked in for next week. Bear with me a second. Where are we? Tourism teacher talk, schedule. Okay, so next week, Thursday, the 15th of April at 5 p.m. China time, we have Nigel Fell, who is going to talk to us about cultural and heritage tourism, which I'm really looking forward to. He's done some fantastic work. He's got his own organisation. We will be covering that. If that's an area that interests you, I will be posting the exact time to LinkedIn over the coming days. You can see I'm a bit busy with our travels at the moment, but I fly back on Saturday and then we'll be all back to normal. So I hope you enjoyed that little insight into life and travel in China. And yeah, if you're interested in doing a LinkedIn Live or a Facebook Live talk, get in touch as well. I'm scheduled through now to the middle of May, but I've got slots after that. So feel free to drop me a line. And goodbye from Guilin.